Despite its humor and cute art style, the lore for the My Time games, My Time at Portia and My Time at Sandrock, is surprisingly deep and dark. My name is Lay, and I'm going to be your humble lore keeper for today. This video is going to be a breakdown of the history and lore of the My Time series to give you a deeper understanding of what's going on around you when you're playing the games. There will not be any major game spoilers here. I'm not even really going to talk about the events of the two games. The only thing that might be considered spoilers is the fact that a lot of the lore pieces are things that you uncover while you play the games. I will be touching on those, but as far as major story spoilers and character spoilers for the two games, you're going to be safe. I want this to be a video that you can watch before or during a playthrough to give you a deeper understanding without spoiling the games for yourself. The period before the events of the game can be broken up into 4 different major events: the Age of Corruption, the Day of Calamity, the Age of Darkness, and the Day of the Bright Sun. Let's start off by talking about the Age of Corruption. During the Age of Corruption, society was extremely technologically advanced. Scientists had created something called power stones, which they were able to use to power nearly everything in society, and they used them for robots, machines that automated nearly every bit of society, and as a result, human beings were able to live extremely luxurious lifestyles. The robots were referred to as AIs, and they were very much integrated into human society. There's a diary that you pick up in My Time at Sandrock called My Day at the Launch Center, which gives a little bit of insight about just what the day-to-day life was like for people in the Age of Corruption from the point of view of a child. In this diary, she's describing a tour of the Olympia starship, and this is what she says. "Today we went on a tour of the Olympia starship. It was so cool. I just got a haircut and looked a bit different, so the big AI at the door nearly didn't let me in. Ma told it off though, and it said it was really sorry. Ma said that her friend worked here and said I should prepare some questions to ask. I asked the AI who Ma's friend is, but it said it's confidential. When we went to the command center, I met this lady sitting in the commander's chair. She was so cool. She said she was going on a long journey to another star system. I think I'm gonna bring all my friends and we're also gonna work in a starship. Then I won't have any more homework." That does also tell us that there was extraterrestrial travel during the Age of Corruption made possible by the Power Stones. Everything seemed perfect until the Day of Calamity. The Day of Calamity was the apocalyptic event that ended the world as it was in the Age of Corruption and led to the Age of Darkness. The cause of the Day of Calamity is something that has been pieced together by little bits of lore dropped in the game and by the developers, but what we can tell is that there was a massive war and the world was destroyed by the use of weapons of mass destruction. These weapons were created by the same technology that had been creating the AIs and everything else, but instead of just using them for peaceful things, now they were using them to create weapons. In the game My Time at Sandrock, a character named Kotori briefly describes the timeline of the world in this little excerpt in an advertisement for an event she's doing, and it says, "The wheel, fire, the written word, automobiles, rockets, antimatter bombs, back to fire." And this indicates that the course of human progress was halted by antimatter bombs. All of this happened around 300 years before the events of the two games, so we don't have any characters that have firsthand accounts of what the Day of Calamity was like. But there is a diary that you can find in My Time at Sandrock, which is a firsthand account from a child who was writing about what she experienced. It's called Gordana's Diary, and here's what she had to say. "Around noon, when I was just finishing my lunch, there was a boom and a blinding light outside. Then the ground started shaking and the wall broke in half. Our house was thrown almost sideways. I was so scared. Mama came running and pulled me into the master bathtub. The shaking and the booms lasted forever. Mama just hugged me tight the whole time. When the shaking finally stopped, our house was reduced to rubbles. In fact, my entire neighborhood was in ruins. Smoke and dust filled the air. Randall, our house AI, was crushed beneath a wall. Mama tried to call Papa, but the network was down. I remember an emergency PA telling people to look for help at designated shelters, so we grabbed whatever we could and headed for the nearest one. There really wasn't anything resembling roads left. We sort of just climbed and hiked across a ruined landscape. The shelter wasn't there anymore. I don't know where it went, but in place of the shelter was the art museum from across town. I think that was the point where it dawned on me that the world will never be the same again. The sky became very dark. I couldn't even see my hands anymore without a light. It'd been a few days since the event. We still couldn't find Papa. Mama cried when she thought that I was asleep. We met up with a few other survivors. There were about 30 of us, and we lived in the art museum. They're saying that fighting was still going on around the moon, and that our orbital platforms were all destroyed. I tend to tune them out when they're discussing this. I didn't want to think about it. Our group managed to gather some food, but we still didn't see any signs of law and order. It seemed like the government was wiped out. The impact of this event cannot be overstated. It completely ended the world as it was known. Cities burned, the sky literally went dark with a cloud of smog and nuclear fallout. Continents were destroyed, humans were decimated, and some of the fallout from the weapons created new mutant variants of flora and fauna. But human life would find a way to prevail. After the day of calamity, human beings were literally forced underground in order to escape the nuclear winter that was happening on the surface. So when we say age of darkness, we quite literally mean an age of darkness, as well as a metaphorical age of darkness, because all knowledge from the old world was also wiped out. This period lasted about 200 years after the age of calamity, and at the beginning of the age of darkness, things were incredibly dismal. I mean, they were always dismal, but especially so at the beginning. Humans faced starvation, violence, a lack of resources, loneliness, and the new mutant monsters that were roaming the underground as well. Another important thing to know is, like I said, they lost all of their old world knowledge, they lost access to their technology, and they lost the ability to use this technology because of everything that had been decimated. In my time at Sandrock, we're given a second entry from Gordana's diary, which gives a really grim insight into just how horrific conditions were at the beginning of the Age of Darkness. We didn't bring much when we ran. I had my mobile, and Mama had a few ration bars, but that's it. It was cold. Not wanting to attract attention, we decided to climb down the tear. Well, it was more like a massive cliff with skyscrapers buried beneath. I didn't even know we had weapons that could do that. We broke a window to enter one of the buildings. It turned out to be an office building. There was a lot of bodies inside. It smelled of rot. Some parts of the building still had power. Mama tried to log onto the net and contact Papa, but the network was still down. The cleaner bots were cruising aimlessly, probably disconnected with their all source. There were blankets in the office, but I still felt cold. We ran out of food a couple of days later. Mama searched the building but didn't find any other food. Seemed like it's been looted already. Mama decided to go outside to look for food. She told me to stay behind because it was dangerous. I told her not to go. I begged her. Mama hugged me and told me to be brave. Then she left. This was 4 days ago. She's still not back. I slept away most of the time. I had dreams where Mama and Papa take me to the beach. Then I'd wake up in the darkness. I don't know what to write next. I'm hungry. I'm cold. I miss you, Mama, Papa. I'm sorry for all the times. This actually makes me tear up every time I read it. I don't know why. It's just so sad. I'm sorry for all the times I caused you trouble. I'd do anything to take these back. I love you. I guess I'll stop here. My name is Gordana. There's also a character named Lee in My Time at Portia, whose great-grandmother was alive during the Age of Darkness, and she told him stories when he was a kid. Long ago, the bleakest period of the Age of Darkness, there was no light to be found. People rose in the morning and went to bed at night in total blackout. Food was scarce and the crops were failing, and it was cold. Very, very cold. Now, over time, humans started to organize and form communities. There was also a brand new religion formed called the Church of Light. So let's take a little pause here and talk about the Church of Light itself. The Church of Light is a religious organization that opposes the usage of technology, believing it to be the cause of the corruption in the Age of Corruption and the Day of Calamity itself. The church warns that if technology is utilized as it was before, then it will bring about more destruction. During the Age of Darkness, the Church of Light gave hope to humanity, predicting that a savior would arise, ending the darkness and bringing back light to the world. After the Age of Darkness into the modern time period, the Church of Light is the main religion of the Alliance of Free Cities, where Portia and Sandrock are located. Each of these locations actually has a church and a dedicated clergy who generally oppose the use of technology, although interestingly, Sandrock tends to have a much more lenient view on the use of technology than Portia. There are also people in the world that are pro the use of technology. There are scientists and builders that believe that the usage of technology is going to to provide progress. And so they're often in opposition with the Church of Light. Okay, back to the Age of Darkness. Eventually, people began venturing into old ruins of old world structures to see what kind of things they can uncover, like technology, knowledge, machinery, etc. These people became known as ruin divers. Ruin diving was very dangerous, but brought a lot of good things to society, and so people heralded them as heroes. They had a lot of fame. Alongside the ruin divers, a new profession called builders emerged. Builders would take the things that the ruin divers found and turn them into workable machines. Over time, there became a lot of overlap between the two professions, and by the time you're playing as a builder in My Time at Portia and My Time at Sandrock, it's essentially the same job. As a builder, your job is to both build things and also go into ruins and find things to build with. Society continued to progress, but things were still not good until the Day of the Bright Sun. The Day of the Bright Sun is the day that humanity was able to start emerging from underground and start repopulating the surface of the planet. This takes place about 100 years before the current day, the time period that My Time at Sandrock and My Time at Portia takes place. A man named J. Peach, who was born during the Age of Darkness, was able to build a machine that would dispel the clouds that covered the sky and bring back some sunlight. This would allow folks to gradually return to the surface. Peach was accepted as the figure that the Church of Light foretold. He was heralded as a hero. There's actually a statue of Peach in Sandrock and Portia, and people invoke his name like we would say, oh my god. They'll say, oh my Peach, or oh Peach. The Day of the Bright Sun is day 0 of the Peach calendar. My Time at Portia starts in 98 Peach, and Sandrock starts a little bit before that. After the Day of the Bright Sun, it took about 30 years for people to fully return to the surface, and when they did, a lot of them kept their affiliations from underground and used them to form countries of the same name. These were Seaside, Duvos, Ethia, and Barnarok. Now let's take another little detour real quick and talk about geography. I'm gonna go through and just briefly describe the different nations in the My Time universe. The first one that we're gonna talk about is the Alliance of Free Cities, which is a group of city-states. The city-states are Lucian, which is the industrial and military hub, Atara, which is the capital of the Alliance of Free Cities and the leading economic hub. It also houses one of the 2 universities in the Alliance, and the other one is in Vega 5. Vega 5 is actually built inside of a crashed space cruiser in the ocean. In addition to housing the university, it is also a research hub. Portia is of course the setting of My Time at Portia. It focuses on farming as it's located on particularly fertile ground. Walnut Grove is the cultural hub. I kind of think of them as like the Austin or the San Francisco of the Free Cities. There's a focus on the arts, theater, carefree living, festival, music, that kind of thing. Highwind is the biggest supplier of wind power. Tall Sky is the place that has the most builders because there is a very large number of old world relics there. And Sandrock is of course the setting of My Time at Sandrock. It is an oasis town in the middle of a desert. It was actually formed around this old world metropolis that it quite literally sits on top of, but Sandrock is on the struggle at the beginning of their game. Okay, so that's the Alliance. Next is the Duvos Empire. It's one of the largest countries. It's an antagonistic force in the world. They want to collect enough old world technology to use to conquer other nations. We haven't seen it in person, but supposedly, according to what some of the characters say, it has a layer of smog over it. The Kingdom of Seaside is another one of the largest countries. It has a good relationship with the Alliance of Free Cities, and they are often giving warnings to Duvos against the aggression that they show the other nations. The Principality of Ethia borders Duvos. There's a lot of tensions between Duvos and Ethia because of this contested area called the Orzu Ruins. Barnarok is located to the northeast. It has a very hot and dry climate, and Meidi is the country that the Church of Light formed. I think of it kind of like the Vatican for the Church of Light. So all these countries were formed. They have their own unique relationships and tensions between them. The Alliance of Free Cities was actually formed around 18 Peach after settlers from Ethia moved into that area looking for more ruins to explore. And when they got there, they found that the climate was generally good, so they got excited, and there was a mass migration of people from Barnarok and Ethia into the area. They formally became the Alliance of Free Cities in Peach 31 in response to aggression from the Duvos Empire. They actually fought a war with Duvos in Peach 76, where they seemed like they would be the underdog because Duvos had been this entire time trying to use and develop as much technology as possible, but because because of the technological research that was being done in Vega 5, they were able to come to a draw basically. So at the start of the games, their relationship with Duvos can be described as contentious with occasional skirmishes. So then the games happen, and like I said, I'm not going to talk a lot about the specific events of what happened in the game, but I am going to just briefly touch on a spoiler-free version of the state of the world leading into their next game, My Time at Evershine. These are little bits of lore that we've gotten from Pathia, from their posting Kickstarter updates and little bits like that. Ataran citizens have been calling for tougher actions against Duvos after their aggression. There were some prisoner exchanges between the Alliance and Duvos that went bad. There is now open conflict between Duvos and Ethia over the Orzu area, with ceasefire agreements being worked on. Importantly, the North Development Plan is happening. This is a plan that the Alliance has launched to move settlers into the contested area of the Orzu ruins and establish a new city-state there to have better defense. Evershine is one of the 6 major new settlements that are there and is going to be very pivotal in the ongoing hostilities. There is still so much that I could talk about when it comes to the lore, but this video would be like hours long. But this was just meant to be a broad overview so that you have a deeper understanding of everything as you're playing the games. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this was informational. Let me know down in the comments if you're playing Portia or Sandrock for the first time. I would love to hear about your experience with it. If you're playing My Time at Sandrock for the first time, I do have a video with tips, things that I wish that I would have known at the beginning as someone who has over 200 hours in the game. If you've already played both of the games, then let me know in the comments which one is your favorite between the two. And are you excited for My Time at Evershine? This has been a video from your friendly neighborhood lore keeper. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.